Okay, let's unpack this. We are stepping onto the court today.
Right.
But we aren't here for, a standard highlight reel or a box score recap.
Not at all.
Our mission is to analyze a very specific moment in elite basketball. It's this collision between a desperate maximum collective effort.
And then on the other side, just singular, unstoppable individual dominance.
Exactly. We want to know how a team's strategic will was just completely crushed by one player's sheer talent.
And the context for this is, well, it's vital. We're diving into that high-stakes matchup between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Golden State Warriors.
That game that ended 124-112 for the Thunder.
And that sealed their phenomenal 13th consecutive victory. But like you said, the real drama wasn't in the final score. It was all in that transition from the second to the third quarter.
That transition is the whole reason we're doing this deep dive. I mean, the sources frame this moment with such incredible drama.
They do.
GSW goes into the locker room facing a 19-point deficit. They weren't just losing. They were being, annihilated.
Yeah, and they had to face a decision that was, way beyond just X's and O's. It was, do we surrender or do we go to war?
And we are examining the consequences of them deciding to fight back.
That 19-point hole is, that's a psychological mountain to climb on its own.
Right.
But what made it almost insurmountable for the Warriors was just looking at the roster they had on the floor.
They were stretched so thin.
So thin. Their comeback effort had to be executed by a lineup that was already, completely depleted.
Let's lay out the specifics of that handicap. The most obvious, massive hole was Stephen Curry being out.
Yep. Sidelined with that left quad contusion.
And that's your chief playmaker. Your gravity, your primary scoring threat. It's just gone.
And that changes everything about your offensive strategy.
Everything.
When you lose the core engine of your offense, you can't rely on those structured, high IQ plays to just methodically chip away at a 19-point lead.
So what are you left with?
You're instantly forced into a state of chaos. Which, ironically, sometimes that can be an advantage, but it just drains your players so much faster. They needed pure energy to make up for that lack of star power.
So, okay, given those massive challenges, you're down 19, you're missing your generational superstar. The Warriors chose war.
They did.
What did that strategy even look like on the court? How do you begin to close a gap that large without your main shot creator?
It was just pure sacrificial energy. They knew they couldn't win with finesse.
No chance.
No. The sources highlight that their response was just absolute grit. We saw players, and I quote, sacrificing their bodies for loose balls.
Which just screams desperation and commitment on every single possession.
And relentlessly battling on the boards for extra opportunities.
That focus on rebounding and the 50-50 balls, that's the ultimate sign of a team that's prioritizing effort over talent.
Totally.
They're trying to create extra possessions, limit OKC's easy chances. It's like a basketball trench warfare.
That's a great way to put it. Just trying to grind the opponent down. And to generate points quickly, their only option was volume and speed.
They started just chucking it.
They started bombarding the Thunder with waves of three-pointers. Now, this isn't necessarily efficient basketball.
Not at all.
But when you're in a 19-point hole, you need variance. You need quick scores. They were trying to manufacture a run through sheer will, just hoping to catch fire and force OKC into mistakes.
And to be fair, it worked.
For a while, yeah.
You have to acknowledge that tremendous team intensity. They managed to shrink that gap, bring the game back into striking distance.
Oh, absolutely.
They fought their way back from the brink of surrendering, and they made OKC feel the pressure.
They absolutely made it a game again. But this is the pivot point for our deep dive.
Okay.
Because when that collective grit and effort pulls a team back, the defense has usually burned so much energy, they're just hoping the opponent's offense finally cracks.
But they didn't crack.
Instead, they ran directly into the most reliable finisher in the league that night, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because SGA was that definitive, unanswerable weapon against the Warriors' fight. They brought a knife to a gunfight, and SGA was the gun.
It's a perfect analogy. You look at his stat line, a lethal 38 points in just 36 minutes.
Incredible efficiency.
But the context of those points is what really matters. They weren't scored in garbage time.
No, they were clutch.
They were accumulated precisely when the Warriors were making their biggest runs, effectively extinguishing every single flicker of hope GSW managed to generate.
So let's analyze the nature of his dominance that night. GSW's defense was, as we said, desperate. They're relying on chaotic rotations, trying to force turnovers. How did SGA stay so efficient against that chaos?
Well, Shai's game is defined by control and pace,
Right.
which is the exact antithesis of the chaos GSW was trying to create. Unlike a lot of volume scorers who rely on hyperspeed or high-risk threes, SGA thrives in the mid-range.
The one area defenses hate to give up.
They hate it, but they often can't close it off completely without fouling or giving up an easy drive to the basket.
He slows the entire game down to his speed, essentially neutralizing that desperation defense. He's famous for those long, deliberate strides. You can never tell if he's going to attack the rim or just pull up short.
Precisely. He's not rushing his decision even when the shot clock is winding down or GSW is, breathing down his neck.
And that ability to dictate the pace forces the defender to commit early.
Which is exactly what leads to fouls or clearer driving lanes or, most importantly, space for that deadly pull-up jumper. He makes the defense stand still in a crisis.
I want to zoom in on the psychology of his closing performance.
Okay.
Let's focus on that specific play with 3.40 left in the game. This wasn't just 2 points on the board.
No, this was a statement, a psychological hammer blow.
The description from the sources is it's cinematic. Yeah. SGA gets the ball, he takes on Buddy Hield, and the language they use is aggressive.
Yeah, I remember this.
It says SGA accosted Buddy Hield with crossovers as he neared the three-point line.
Accosted. That word suggests he didn't just challenge him, he confronted him, He dismantled him one-on-one.
The defender is completely on an island. Forced to react to SGA's relentless moves, he creates space with a step back, releases the long-range shot.
And it just drops. Swish.
And that play basically marked the functional end of the Warriors' incredible comeback. The timing was perfect. The execution was flawless.
But the lasting image is what happens immediately after the basket. The sources describe the opposing crowd just recoiling.
A visible sign of defeat.
Yeah, but Gilgeous-Alexander, he's focused entirely on himself. He starts moving his arms aggressively in a motion that mimics reloading a weapon.
The reloading motion right after he delivered the fatal shot, that symbolism is just incredibly powerful.
It is.
His message isn't, oh, I got lucky with that shot. His message is, I have no shortage of ammunition.
I can do this all night, and you cannot stop it. It signals this relentless psychological superiority. When a team is fighting tooth and nail, giving up their bodies for loose balls, the only thing keeping them going is the hope that they can eventually force a miss.
Right.
When the other team's star performs a celebration that symbolizes infinite capability, that hope is just instantly extinguished. It's an act of pure mental dominance.
This brings up a really important question. What does that kind of consistent execution look like to his own teammates, the people who rely on him?
Well, it must instill an unbelievable amount of confidence.
For sure.
And we actually have the perfect insight from his teammate, Chet Holmgren, who summarized the whole dilemma that SGA presents to a defense.
Oh, this is great.
Holmgren's analysis, it cuts right to the heart of SGA's brilliance. He basically said that when you're defending SGA, no matter what you do as a defense, you're wrong.
Wow. That is the ultimate defensive trap.
It is.
I mean, if you're the defensive coordinator, your job is to create a situation where the offense takes a shot that you've calculated as low percentage.
Right.
Holmgren is saying that against SGA, that entire calculus is just void.
It completely breaks down. If the defense collapses and brings help, SGA is excellent at finding the open guy or drawing the foul.
But if you try to honor his skill and just play him straight up?
Holmgren confirms it. He says, if you play him straight up, that's what he does. That's what he gets paid a lot of money to do. That's why he is the player that he is.
It's a recognition that his skill has reached a point where he just eliminates all viable defensive options.
Exactly. He's being paid to execute in those exact moments, and his performance against GSW proved why he commands that level of salary and respect.
It really reinforces the core tension of that game, doesn't it?
It does. GSW was fighting with maximum effort, hoping to force SGA into a mistake, a rushed shot. But SGA, through, superior skill, patience, and decision-making, simply took the optimal shot no matter the pressure.
Effort is what's required to close a 19-point gap.
But only reliable execution can actually keep that gap closed.
So if we synthesize all our findings, this deep dive really reveals that while the Warriors show the absolute peak of collective will and sacrificial effort to claw their way back.
Which was a truly commendable strategic response.
Absolutely. But that collective power ultimately just collapsed when it was faced with a singular, consistent, and lethal superstar weapon in the clutch.
GSW chose war. They committed every single resource they had to the fight. But in that final quarter, OKC deployed a weapon SGA that they just had no answer for.
And that's why they got their 13th straight win.
Exactly. The fact that they closed out a highly competitive game not through team brilliance in the final minutes, but through one individual's flawless execution. That's the defining message of that 124-112 final score.
It's a compelling argument for the enduring value of the superstar outlier in modern sports.
Yeah, that individual talent that can just negate any team strategy, any level of grit, and any momentum shift.
And that translation of internal confidence into that visible, aggressive symbol, the reloading motion, is just fascinating.
It's the visual marker of a mentality that knows deep down that the outcome is already predetermined when the ball is in their hands.
So we've seen SGA's lethal weapon mentality translated into that specific physical celebration, that reloading motion. We know the message it sends to the opposition. So here's a final thought for you to mull over. When the stakes are at their absolute highest and every single person in the arena knows who is taking the deciding shot, how much does that specific type of confident, almost aggressive symbolism, that visual promise of infinite shots, define the mentality of athletic dominance? Does that confident visual tell us more about the pressure of the moment than the shot itself?